Charlie? He hated that it was a question. Luke counted to 5 in his mind, trying to stop from grabbing his little boy and squeezing the lifeblood from him. He'd waited for this moment for so long, and now this child, with hair the same blonde as his own, stood before him, waiting expectantly as if his father would know what to do, when the truth was, he had no idea how to even greet him. But he was back now, and that's what counted. Before he could drop his pack to the ground, the tiny body hurtled forward, grabbing him tight around the legs. Luke barely had time to lock eyes with Ollie again, to see the reaction on her face before he was thrown headfirst into fatherhood. "I see you're not shy, huh?" He recovered from the tackle enough to straighten, bag dropped to the ground, one hand on his son's head. "Thought you'd be big enough for a handshake by now." Charlie jumped back, saluting his dad, a grin plastered on his face. Luke responded in kind, straight-faced, at his boy pretending to be a soldier. "You've been taking good care of the little soldier, huh?" Luke turned his attention back to his wife. Olivia stood in the hall, her slender body braced by the wall. His eyes flicked over her, at the long honey-brown hair falling over her shoulders, at the slim arms crossed over her chest, and the sad blue eyes staring back at him. He hated seeing her like that, knowing he was responsible for the sadness in her gaze. "Ah, the poster!" Charlie spun around and motored down the hall past his mom, disappearing from sight. Luke watched for a moment, then stepped inside and closed the door behind him. "How are you, Ollie?" He stood at ease, feet spread evenly. His hands slipped into his pockets as he watched her. Watched those beautiful big blue eyes that were looking straight back at him. "It's good to have you back, Luke." Olivia's voice was strained. He tried to ignore it, but it hit him hard. He had imagined this day for a long time, thought about what he'd say and how he'd apologize to her. But now that he was here, expressing himself wasn't coming as easily as he'd hoped. "It's good to be home." Should he close the distance between them and kiss her? Hug her and say sorry? He almost made himself laugh. What would he pick to say sorry for? Leaving her when he'd promised to stay? His royal failure at being a husband? Or for being the world's worst father? "He's been so excited about seeing you." Olivia gestured with her head as a thunder of footfalls echoed their way. "He hardly slept a wink all night." Luke understood. How could he not? His son was excited to have him home. His wife wasn't. He didn't deserve anything more, but it still hurt. "He sure turned into a pretty special kid." "Welcome home." Charlie stood at his mom's side, arms stretched wide, with a homemade poster. Luke looked at Olivia first, then at Charlie, and he wished things could have been different. That he'd been away a few months, maybe 6. That he was coming home to a real family, to a wife who loved him still. The kind of family he had wished for over and over when he was a child. "I love it," he said, dropping to his knees to inspect the picture. "You did great, kid." His son beamed and grabbed his hand, tugging him in the direction he'd come from. "Come on, Dad." Luke looked over his shoulder at Ollie and almost wished he'd stayed away. This was harder than he'd expected, and then some. He'd come home to see his son, but looking at his wife, he was wishing he'd made more of an effort in that department, too. More than an effort, he wished he'd taken the time to make things right. When Luke looked back at her, gave her that soft smile he used to throw her way so often, Olivia almost broke down, but she was determined not to cry. She had to be strong for their son. It was all that mattered right now.